All right, it is the behind the scenes weather models discussion for Monday, November the 14th. How's it going, everyone? William Cole here in the Storm Studio, and it is a cold, rainy day here in North Texas. Again, this is the bonus content we like to do all the time. This is not something we put on our channel, but we do put on our social media, like in Facebook, Instagram, or on YouTube. If you're seeing it on there, again, be sure to give it a like. Leave us a comment if you have a question, or again, even let us know where you're watching from as well. We also want to say a big thank you to our Patreon subscribers for making this possible, right? That also helps to support our mobile app, our channel as well. But again, if you're not a Patreon subscriber, feel free to do that today. It's only $2.99 per month. Again, helps to support this bonus content, but also our channel as well. So a lot going on. Like I mentioned, it's cold, it's wet out there. The rain is now tapering off as we go through most of the work week. Rain chances are essentially done, but we've got one more pretty decent Arctic front on the way just in time for the weekend, and that's going to knock our temperatures back down. So let's go dive into this. Again, we'll be looking over a lot of raw data coming up momentarily as well. But first of all, again, just looking at our downtown cam, again, yeah, you can even see the low-grade cloud cover, even covering up part of the Bank of America building there as well, right? The top is kind of inundated in some of that low-grade cloud cover. It's been raining here in Dallas through most of the afternoon, and because of that, temperatures, simply put, they just have not moved, right? We've got some 30s up north, low to mid-40s here in the Metroplex, and generally speaking, some mid-40s to right around 50 in our southern and in our western counties. Looking at regional temperatures here quickly as well, this also really tells the story, because I tell you what, out in our Texas Panhandle, around Amarillo earlier today, there's been snow. In Oklahoma, there's been snow, and one of the reasons why, again, temperatures there, you can see just a little bit chillier. Dodge City also looking pretty chilly up there as well, currently at 25. Okay, let's go and look at radar, and let's go and take a look at what we have going on out there. And again, you can see here in North Texas, it's mainly rain, right? We had a pretty decent band of moderate rain move through the Metroplex. This was maybe an hour and a half ago. That's tapering off. The moderate rain is now over in our eastern counties. We're talking about like Kaufman County, Hunt County, Van Zandt County, all the way back over through Hopkins County. It's going to continue to push off to the east, right? But behind it, what is not necessarily showing up on radar, it's still cloudy, it's still drizzly. There's maybe even a few light showers out there, so the evening commute still looks damp to wet. The roadways also look damp to wet as well. One other thing worth noting here, look at how close that wintry precipitation is coming to North Texas. Again, up there in Lamar and even Fannin County, I mean, the radar is kind of at least giving us a few signals. There could be a few snowflakes mixed in with some of the rain. We knew that was possible. Again, this isn't necessarily a verification. You know, when you're using these winter products, they're not always 100%, right? It's basically right there on the razor's edge. But again, over towards Pat Mays Lake, could there be a couple snowflakes north of the Honey Grove area? Yeah, not impossible, right? We're not anticipating any accumulating snow there. But again, up in Oklahoma, there's been quite a bit of accumulating snow. If you've looked at social media at all, parts of western Oklahoma, they picked up anywhere from 5 to almost 6 inches of snow. And it's still snowing out there, right? It's not done. So again, you can see by, you know, some locations here in North Texas, we're talking about a 20 to 30 to maybe even 50-mile difference from rain to not just a few snowflakes. I mean, we're talking about big accumulating snow. Part of the Oklahoma City metro, they've seen a little rain and snow, but there hasn't been, at least so far, much accumulation up there. But again, if you like wintry precip, you're disappointed. Most of us probably don't like wintry precip that much, right? So we're able to kind of get on with it and just deal, again, with the cold rain today. Let's go and look at one other thing. And let me try and punch this up at least. I wanted to show you the satellite, but I want to actually show you this just for the fact you can actually see the storm system spinning around here. And this is where we're going to switch over to more of the raw data that I wanted to get to. And you know what, let me actually do this. I haven't set this up yet today. Give me 1 second. Let me do just something here on the fly. What I need to do is I just need to select our other input, which is the web browser here on the weather computer. It wasn't selected. So let me go and open this up. And this is what I was trying to get to. This is why we call it the behind the scenes, right? It's not pretty and fancy. But look at that area spin. I mean, as you're looking at this, I mean, it's pretty evident that we have this area of low pressure moving through. See, everything is just spinning counterclockwise. And so as the low basically comes right down the Red River Valley on the northern and the backside of the low, this is the cold sector. That's why up in Oklahoma, it's chilly enough to get snow, even though we're not necessarily warm here in North Texas. We know it's a cold day, but in the quote-unquote warm sector, we're on the warmer side of that system, and again, that's why we're getting rain. But it's razor close, as it is. I mean, you know, as we go through fall and really begin to get into winter, any of these systems, it all depends on the side of the system you're on, or again, how much cold air is already in place. When, you know, going forward now, unless we're just extremely mild, each of these systems that come through, we have to do some type of analysis on it, again, just to make sure there's no opportunity of wintry precipitation. Again, if our temperatures jump back up in the 60s, then, I mean, come on, we know it's pretty obvious, but, you know, we've been in a pretty cool pattern. We're going to persist through a pretty cool pattern. So again, we've got to do our due diligence on each of these systems. So let me go and show you the overall setup. We like to show this as well, right? This is what we call the upper air chart. This is the 500 millibar chart, and this is at 18,000 feet. And what we're looking for here, number one, we're seeing this big long wave trough, right? You can see that big dip coming through part of the continental United States. That's allowing all the chillier air to funnel down out of Canada. But the reason truly we have the active weather today, look at what we have here embedded within that long wave trough. You can see the little dip inside of it. That's what we call a short wave, right? So that's an area of low pressure. It's riding down within the trough itself and moving through. And by the way, it's also negative tilted as well. See how it kind of leans back? And so that helps for rising motion. You can have a positive, a neutral, or a negative tilt trough. In severe weather season, when we see a negative tilt trough, our eyes get a little bit bigger, right? Some of you already know about that. We begin to really track those carefully. Obviously, when you're in the cold season, which we are now, it's a bit of a different beast, right? But they still have added lift, so we watch those carefully for, again, in this situation, a cold rain as we go through the day, or if you're up in Oklahoma, again, you're getting the snow, right? But regardless, it's a big time weather making system. Not always, but again, a lot of the time, if you have the rest of the dynamics to go with it. Okay, quickly, let's look at the convective outlook, then we'll get to the actual model data. Okay, so by the way, today down along the Gulf Coast, including our Texas Gulf Coast, even down around the Houston area, there is an opportunity of active weather down there, including a few tornado warnings, again, wind and hail down there as well. Okay, that same area of concern tomorrow is actually going to shift off to the east. In fact, it's going to be over in the Florida Panhandle, and again, some locations over there like Pensacola, Destin, even Panama City Beach, they're going to have their own opportunity of severe weather. A couple of tornado warnings possible. I'm just kind of going through these. Wind and not really a hail threat. So wind and potentially even an isolated tornado and waterspout threat tomorrow over in the Florida Panhandle, right? Let's go and look at day 3. And day 3, again, we have no opportunity of any severe weather. This would be Wednesday. Again, maybe a few general thunderstorms up in parts of the Northeast, but again, outside of that, no severe weather anticipated. You saw how it was pretty well confined down along the Gulf Coast. As we go through the cold season, right, the opportunity of severe weather, it's going to be more and more limited towards the coast and also over into the deep south as we begin to get into the winter months, believe it or not. South locations like Alabama, Georgia, even Florida as well, that is their severe weather season. That's their tornado season, and they will have an opportunity of active weather on days where they're mild, right? Where they're mild down there, interacting with those big change of air masses coming through as well. Okay, so from there, let's go and jump into the model data, right? This is what we really like to get to. And again, let's take a look at what we have going on. I want to use the different zoom here. And what we're going to start with, what we always start with here, this again is also the upper air analysis, right? But this is the model data that's going to take us from today out 10 days. This will give us the overall pattern, the overall setup that we have, similar to what we were looking at moments ago. We're looking for the dips, we're looking for the ridges. Dips are active weather, ridges are calmer weather. And again, within those dips, we're looking for areas of vorticity, which would be the brighter color showing up. So number one, you can see our storm system from today, right? There it is right there. Okay, so we're going to watch that pull away. There it goes. You can see it lifting off to the northeast. But we still basically are in this troughing pattern, right? The trough continues to come down out of Canada. We're in northwesterly flow, so it's allowing additional mini storm systems or cold fronts to ride down into our area. And as it turns out, you can see this next weather maker coming out. This is for Thursday and a Friday. It is going to bring another front, unfortunately. And again, when I'm saying this northwesterly flow, it's important in North Texas because sometimes northwesterly flow can be really active, or sometimes it can be a snooze fest and there's nothing going on. But you can see the overall trough here, right? But the northwesterly flow is the pattern, right? The jet stream is coming down out of the northeast in that troughing pattern. So if you have a big deep storm trough coming down into the southern plains or just off to our east, we can get in that northwesterly flow. And again, in the springtime, it can open the door to active weather, severe weather, or again, in this time of year, the barn doors open to let cooler, chillier or colder air or Arctic air down into the area, right? And again, in this situation, it's an Arctic front that's coming down. It'll be modified Arctic air by the time it gets here. But again, it's another pretty decent blast of chillier air. I'll show you that coming up. But again, that's the pattern that we're in. But you'll see we begin to break that pattern, right? So we've been, at least so far this month, pretty chilly. But look at what we have building in. This is going to be in about 8-9 days. We have a bit of a ridging pattern building in. Right, see this? You can see this little ridge beginning to build. Number one, that's going to be calmer weather, okay? So no real opportunity of active weather with that, but also that's going to be milder weather building in as well. Then you can see towards the end of this, by day 10, we have one more trough coming in, but this is more of a Pacific trough as opposed to a Canadian trough. So let's put some context with that, right? So this is the 850 millibar look, and again, this is air mass change. This is just above the surface. Okay, so as we roll this in time, you can see there's the current system moving through. You can see the little front with it coming through. So for tomorrow, even though we're in the 40s today, we're still going to struggle to like 49 tomorrow. Tomorrow still looks pretty chilly, right? We're watching that cold air to the north. You can see it building. Here comes the next front. And notice where it comes from. Watch that air mass. It comes right out of northern Alaska. So again, true Arctic air. Here it comes. You can see it diving down through Canada. Okay, so again, the source region, this time of year, it's important. Where does the air come from? What is the source region? So in this situation, the source region is the Arctic. So it is Arctic air. It's going to modify before it gets here, right? It's going to warm. It's going to change ever so slightly. It's not going to be as cold as it was to our north. So when you hear modified Arctic air, the source region is Arctic. It's going to be Arctic air to our north. But again, the further south it comes, just like any air mass, as it interacts with the warmer air to the south, it's going to modify and again, still not be quite as cold, but it's still an Arctic air mass, if that makes sense. So here we go. You see the Arctic air mass coming down. It's modifying, but then here comes that next front. And I mean, man, this again is for, late Thursday and a Friday for the weekend. You can see another really good push of chilly air. The true chilliness, the true cold air, the true Arctic air, you can see stays to our north. That's kind of the whites and the really dark blues, right? But we're getting some light blues here. I mean, regardless, it's going to knock our temperatures back down into the 40s. We may have some more morning freezes, quite possible, heading into the weekend. So that's another pretty good push of chilly air. Okay, now going forward, take a look at this. As that ridge begins to build in, well, look what happens. All the chilly air goes off to the north. Look at that. We've got some yellows building in, and we'll put numbers with this. I know that sounds kind of elementary to say we've got yellows, but I mean, truly, that's what we're looking at right now on our analysis, right? So we've got warmer weather building in with that ridge, and then as we go forward in time, there's not another big chilly air outbreak in that medium range, right? So as we're looking out, that would be day 10, 11, 12, we can extrapolate out. You can see there's still quite a bit of chilly air up in Canada. We've got some cooler air there across parts of the northern Rockies and the northern plains. We'll get another front coming in, but we're not going to chill down quite as much, right? Now, there's still stuff building to the north. That doesn't mean at the end of the month or early December, we don't get another big push of chilly air, but the pattern changes, right? We've been locked in this pattern where we continue to get a northwesterly flow these fronts down. Now the pattern changes towards the end of the forecast period, okay? So it'll be different, right? We'll be a little bit milder. Okay, so let's go look at precip. And then we'll put numbers with that, right? We'll put actual highs and lows. So what we just looked at, keep in the back of your mind, and then we'll put the actual numbers with that coming up, okay? There's the precip from today. We know about that. We're just going to kind of blow on by that, right? Okay, so we're going through the rest of the work week. Yeah, pretty quiet, right? Nothing really going on. Here comes that next front late Thursday into Friday. it basically comes through dry, right? There's no moisture for it to work with. It's what we call a dry frontal passage. It's dry. There we go forward in time. Maybe a few showers, snow showers, in fact, even up in Oklahoma. That would be on Friday. Again, here in North Texas, we're dry. Nothing going on. We're just rolling through time here. We have that last weather maker here in about 10 days. And that following, I believe it is the following Wednesday into Thursday, I went ahead and put in, right now, again, because we're talking about 9 or 10 days on down the road, right? So I put in a 20% opportunity on my 12-day, right? When you talk 9, 10, 11 days on down the road, typically you'll see me put 20 or 30, right? 30 means, you know, it's a big system. There's an okay chance that maybe this far out we can say that this might happen, right? 20% means there's a system moving through and it's essentially a placeholder until we get to about 7 days out. Then we really begin to play with the probabilities, right? Because then we have more accurate data, right? So we kind of use placeholders 10, 11, 12 days on down the road, 7 days in, that's when we really play with the probabilities, right? But again, still, it looks marginal, right? Could we maybe with that front get some showers? The data showing it could be near just south of the Metroplex. Central Texas, in fact, could even have some stronger weather. Again, if this verifies, right? We're looking 10 days out. All that, again, is subject to change, right? And the data typically will change between now and then. Okay, let's go and put some numbers with this. This is what you really want to see. And I'm going to zoom this back out. And that way you can see what we're talking about, okay? So everything within context here. Again, for tomorrow, Tuesday, 49, right? We've got that other front coming through. There's a pretty decent little push of chilly air. Again, currently up in Dodge City, like you saw there on the regional chart. Take a look at this here. Up in Dodge City, I mean, they're currently 26, right? Our panhandle's 27. I mean, that's a pretty decent little push of chilly air. That's behind that front. It's a pretty shallow, small pocket of chilly air, but that's what's inbound for tomorrow. We won't be in the 20s. Again, it will modify, but tomorrow's going to be chilly. I mean, it really will be. I think we'll struggle to 49. After that, Wednesday, Thursday looks better. More in the way of sun Wednesday and Thursday as well. Highs back in the mid-50s. Late Thursday into Friday, here comes that next Arctic front. So Friday and Saturday, we're back down into the mid-40s. Look at those morning lows. By Saturday morning, Metroplex 31, Sunday 30. By the way, over the weekend, the Metroplex, DFW, even Dallas Love Field, did not hit freezing, right? DFW got down to 33. So we have not actually technically had our first freeze of the season. Most locations, most reporting stations around North Texas did have a freeze at the beginning of last weekend. So, but officially DFW did not. So we're still looking for that first possibility of a freeze coming up as well. We'll be tracking that. Then after that, we begin to kind of rebound the temperatures back into the mid 50s, and then you see Wednesday and Thursday. Why did the temperatures jump into the 60s? The ridge, remember the ridge, it's a warming pattern, typically a calmer weather pattern, and essentially that's what we see. We're putting temperatures near where we should be for this time of year, but technically still even a little bit below. And then we have one more front, really right at the end of this where we left off with the data. Remember, there was one more front coming through, but it wasn't Arctic air, it was a Pacific air mass coming in. So theoretically, even though the data is not on there, it's probably going to cool us back down into the mid to upper 50s. It'll be very short-lived. That air mass will be in and out. And then the way it looks, we warm right back up into the 60s, and then we kind of wait it out and see what happens. Do we stay in that kind of more of a ridging pattern, a quieter pattern, or do we get a big storm trough to redevelop, which this time of year it can happen very easily, come back down, and we get another big hit of chilly air. And like I mentioned, that would be outside of that 10-day window, right? So we don't have the data to show that here quite yet. And again, that's the big question mark as we go forward in time. So that's kind of what we're thinking on the forecast. That's the general setup. Like I mentioned, this is the raw data. We don't really use the pretty TV graphics for the segment. We just kind of show you what we've been looking at here in the Storm Studio as we've gone through the day. Like I mentioned, if you like this segment, again, like I mentioned, be sure to give us a like. We only put this on our social media. And again, leave us a comment below as well. Let us know where you're watching from. And again, if you're not a Patreon subscriber, like I mentioned, feel free to become a subscriber. It helps to support this segment, but again, also our mobile app, our our channel and other things like that as well. And by the way, if you have not downloaded our free mobile app, be sure to do that. Like I mentioned, it is free, and of course it's available in the Apple iTunes Store, the Google Play Store. Just type in Weather Tracker TV. Again, make sure you download it. Our live channel is on there, number one, but we also have live radar, breaking weather alerts, my 12-day forecast, all of that fun stuff is on there as well. So otherwise, again, thanks for checking out the weather model discussion on this Monday. We'll do it again tomorrow. And again, we'll track the rest of the work week out over the next several days. Have a good rest of your Monday. Stay warm. And again, stay dry out there as well.